So you typed in, what size water heater do I need? And you are probably standing in front of a wall of tanks at the hardware store or staring at a spec sheet online trying to figure out whether 40 gallons or 50 gallons or 80 gallons is the right call. Here is the part nobody tells you up front. The gallon number stamped on the side of that tank is not the number you should be shopping by. It tells you how much water the tank holds, but it tells you almost nothing about how much hot water actually reaches your shower before it runs cold. Two tanks with the same gallon number can perform like totally different machines. By the time we are done here, you will know the one number that actually matters, how to figure it out for your own house, and how to match it whether you go with a tank, a tankless, or one of the newer heat pump units. I have sized a lot of these, compared the spec sheets side by side, and watched people buy the wrong one because a sticker said the right thing, so let me save you that mistake. Here is the core idea, and everything else builds on it. A water heater has two very different jobs. One is storage, which is how much hot water it is holding right now. The other is supply, which is how fast it can keep handing you hot water once you start using it. The gallon number only describes storage. The thing that decides whether you run out in the middle of a shower is supply. And supply has its own rating that most people never look at. So the real method is two steps. First, you figure out how much hot water your house actually demands in its busiest hour. Then you buy a heater rated to deliver that much. That is the whole game, and it works the same whether you end up with a tank or a tankless. Before you calculate anything, do two quick gut checks. The first one is just common sense. With the water heater you have right now, do you run out of hot water on a normal busy morning? If you do, you already know you need more capacity than you have, so plan to size up. If you never run out, do not let a salesman talk you into a bigger tank than you need, because a bigger tank costs more every single month to keep hot, whether you use that water or not. The second check is about fit, and this one trips people up constantly. Back in April of 2015, the federal efficiency rules changed and water heaters got fatter. To hit the new numbers, manufacturers wrapped them in more insulation, so most tanks under 55 gallons grew about 2 inches taller and 2 inches wider around. That sounds tiny until you remember your old tank was shoehorned into a closet or a tight corner with barely an inch to spare. The new replacement might physically not fit the spot the old one came out of. So before you buy anything, measure your opening, both the height and the width, and make sure the new unit can actually go where the old one lived. Now for the number that does all the work. Your peak hour demand is the maximum amount of hot water your household pulls during its single busiest hour of the day, usually a weekday morning when showers, the sink, and maybe a load of laundry all stack up at once. You build this number by adding up the hot water each activity uses. A shower runs about 20 gallons, a bath about the same 20, shaving at the sink 2 gallons, washing your hands and face around 4, shampooing hair at the sink another 4, hand washing dishes or prepping food 3 to 4 gallons. An automatic dishwasher anywhere from 7 to 14 gallons depending on the model. A clothes washer on a hot cycle 15 gallons for a newer high efficiency front loader, and up to about 32 for an older top loader. Here is how you use those numbers. Picture your busiest hour and only count what actually overlaps. Say it is 2 back-to-back showers, the dishwasher running, and someone shaving. That is 20 plus 20 plus, call it 10 for the dishwasher, plus 2, so right around 52 gallons of hot water in that 1 hour. That total is your peak hour demand. If you want to nail an exact figure for a specific appliance, instead of using these averages, you can read your water meter right before and right after a full cycle and see exactly how many gallons it pulled. But for most people, adding up the averages gets you close enough to shop confidently. Once you have that demand number, the path splits depending on which kind of heater you are buying. Let me take you down each one. Start with a standard storage tank, the classic kind. The number you match your demand against here is the first hour rating. The first hour rating tells you how many gallons of hot water that unit can deliver in 1 hour, starting with a full hot tank. It is printed right on the yellow EnergyGuide sticker on the side in the top left corner, listed as capacity. This is the number that actually matters, and it is almost never the same as the gallon size. If your peak hour demand came out to 52 gallons, you want a first hour rating of at least 52, and a little cushion never hurts. Now here is why two 50-gallon tanks can be totally different animals. The first hour rating is roughly the recovery rate plus about 70% of the tank volume. Recovery rate is how fast the heater can reheat cold water coming in, and that depends almost entirely on the fuel. A gas tank recovers fast, somewhere around 40 to 55 gallons an hour, because a gas burner throws a lot of heat. A standard electric tank recovers slowly, only about 20 to 25 gallons an hour, because the heating elements just cannot match a flame. So a 40-gallon gas heater can actually outdeliver a 50-gallon electric one over a busy morning, even though the electric tank holds more water. The gas unit just refills the hot water faster than the family can drain it. That has a real consequence if you are switching fuels. If you are replacing a gas water heater with an electric one, you almost always need to jump up at least one tank size to get the same real-world performance, because that slower recovery has to be made up with more stored water. If you only remember one thing about tanks, make it this: shop by the first hour rating on the yellow label rather than the gallon size. And if you genuinely cannot find the first hour rating, the rough fallback by household is 40 to 50 gallons for 2 or 3 people, 50 to 60 for 3 or 4, and 65 to 80 for 5 or more, adding about 10 gallons of capacity for every extra bathroom that gets used at the same time. There is a newer kind of tank worth a special mention because it breaks the normal sizing rules. The heat pump water heater, sometimes sold as a hybrid, is extremely efficient and a lot of people are switching to them, but they reheat slowly and their efficient mode often only 20 to 25 gallons an hour, much like a standard electric unit. Because they recover so slowly, they lean on stored water as a buffer to get you through a busy stretch. So the rule of thumb with a heat pump unit is to go one size up from what you would have bought in gas. If a 50-gallon gas tank would have covered you, get a 65-gallon heat pump. If you needed a 65 in gas, step up to an 80. And be a little skeptical of the box that promises a family of 4 will be fine, because that often assumes the unit is running on its electric backup mode, not the slow efficient mode you bought it for. Check the spec sheet for the actual first hour rating, since heat pump units are not required to carry that yellow label. Now the other path, tankless, and this is where most people get burned because the math is built differently. A tankless heater has no gallon number at all because it stores nothing. It heats water on the fly as it flows through. So instead of gallons, you size it by gallons per minute and by how much it has to heat the water. Those are the two things that matter: flow and temperature rise. The flow part is straightforward to work out. You add up the fixtures that might run at the same time. A shower pulls about 2 to 2.5 gallons a minute. A bathroom faucet about 1.5 gallons. A kitchen sink around 2. A dishwasher or a clothes washer roughly 1.5 to 2 each. So a shower plus a kitchen sink plus the washer running at once is somewhere around 6 gallons a minute that the unit has to supply continuously. Temperature rise is the part people forget, and it is the part that wrecks the math. A tankless unit can only raise the water so many degrees at a given flow rate. The colder your incoming water, the harder it has to work, and the fewer gallons a minute it can push while still getting them hot. Your incoming water temperature depends on where you live. In the northern states, groundwater can come in around 40 to 50 degrees. So to reach a comfortable 120 at the tap, the unit has to add 70 degrees or more. Down south, groundwater might already be 65 to 75 degrees, so it only has to add 40-some degrees. That is a huge difference. The exact same tankless model will deliver far fewer gallons a minute in Minnesota than it will in Florida, purely because of how cold the water starts. To put a number on it, a gas tankless can manage about 5 gallons a minute at a 70-degree rise. An electric tankless only about 2 gallons a minute at that same rise. So if you are up north and you need 6 gallons a minute, a single small electric tankless is not going to cut it. This is exactly how people end up disappointed. I watched a homeowner install a slick custom shower with 8 separate heads, each one pushing about 2 gallons a minute. That is 16 gallons a minute the system needed. The tankless they picked could only make about 4.5 gallons a minute of hot water. The numbers simply did not add up, and they ended up having to add a second unit to feed the thing. So when you size a tankless, add up your real simultaneous flow, figure your local temperature rise in the coldest months, and buy a unit that hits that combined number. Always size for your cold season, not the mild average, or you will come up short every winter. One handy trick on a tankless: if you find it slowing the flow to a trickle when it is set really hot, try turning the set temperature down. At a lower target temperature, the unit does not have to slow the water as much to heat it, so your flow comes back up. If you are going to add cold water at the tap anyway, you are better off just running the heater a few degrees cooler and letting the flow stay strong. Before you go buy anything, here is the tip that helps you no matter which way you go, and it can let you get away with a smaller, cheaper unit. Insulate your hot water pipes. Those cheap foam sleeves that slip over the pipe keep the hot water hotter as it travels away from the heater, which means less of it cools off in the lines and gets wasted. When less heat leaks out on the way to the tap, you can often run the heater a touch cooler and still get the same comfort, and a household that wastes less hot water can be served by a slightly smaller heater. If your tank is an older uninsulated one, a tank blanket helps too, though skip that on a brand new unit since the modern ones are already wrapped and covering the controls or vents can be unsafe. So that is how you actually answer the question, and you can see it never really started with gallons. It started with your busiest hour. Add up the hot water your household truly pulls at once, and that demand number becomes your target to shop against. On a tank, you match it to the first hour rating on the yellow label, remembering a fast recovering gas unit can beat a bigger slow electric one. On a heat pump, you size one step up to cover the slow recovery. On a tankless, you weigh your simultaneous flow against your coldest month, because cold incoming water quietly steals capacity. Once you have that target number in hand, only two things are left to check before you pay. Confirm the new unit still fits your space after the 2015 size bump, and glance at the yearly operating cost on that yellow label, because a more efficient 40 can quietly beat a cheaper 50 over all the years you will own it. Get the number right first, and the rest of the decision falls into place. I have linked the pipe insulation, tank blankets, and a couple of the tools mentioned down in the description if you want to grab them. Take the 10 minutes to run the math before you buy, and you will walk away with a heater that fits the space, never leaves you standing in cold water, and does not quietly overcharge you to run.